This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to our New Year's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We want this to be the very best year possible. Obviously, we're going to have to bail ourselves out of a lot of issues and a lot of problems to do that. But I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. This is being a little bit pre-recorded because of scheduling in terms of Radio America and elsewhere. So we're going to talk generically here, but not much is going to happen anyway in the next few days because everybody on Capitol Hill is bailed out. They impeached the president, but nothing's happened further than that. They got out of town. They could care less. I mean, they're a bunch of clowns up there to begin with. And I said in the Christmas show, which was last week, how Mark Meadows, who I actually like, he's one of the few congressmen from North Carolina who I believe is sincere. He's a good man. He's ethical. He's leaving, so that comes as no surprise. Anybody who's good basically gets out of there. It's the clowns that are left. And you know what? They're evil clowns. There are a lot of movies like that. Stephen King had one that I kind of remember. But joining me today is Jason Goodman, my good friend and good man. I'm Clayman, and he's Goodman. And I want to get his take on where he thinks things are going in 2020. He has a great internet site and show called Crowdsource the Truth. He, like Radio America, allows for the truth to be heard. It's very important. We don't have that in cable news today. We don't have that in the written print. Everybody's pursuing their own agenda, their own advertising dollars. Fox News is playing both sides of the street. You know, with Napolitano, they want the president impeached and convicted. And with Hannity, God knows what they want with Hannity. If you can figure out what he says, please call me after the new year, because he's what he sells is stuff that frankly will never happen to get people to watch. But Jason tells the truth. And I want to hear what he has to say about where he thinks this country is going in 2020. And then I'll comment on that. He's my co-host today, my good friend and a great patriot, Jason Goodman.
Thank you, Larry, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everybody in this country and around the world.
Yeah, and Larry, I was listening to the opening as we just led into the show there, and it becomes almost like a melody that people who people who watch the show just become so accustomed to, But there are things in there, Larry, that are still pertinent today. You mentioned in there that you're the only lawyer to ever get a ruling against the sitting president that he'd broken the law. And that is pertinent to the impeachment because Donald Trump has not broken the law, but yet he's still been impeached. And you also talk about Chinagate, which was in totality very similar to what's going on in Ukraine, foreign deals with money going under the table and things like that. And the breakup of AT&T, where we still have big tech monopolizing, now we're talking about the internet instead of cell phones. So it's remarkable how the more things seem to change, the more they actually stay the same.
Yeah, I often say when I use a little bit of off-color language, pardon the French, but maybe the French had it right. Last night I was watching the movie Les Miserables, like that French accent. The Miserables, okay? And, the French Revolution was a real revolution, okay? It was bloody. It was terrible. Thomas Jefferson, our founding father and third American president, was actually an architect of that. I don't want to see that kind of a revolution, but that's where I think we're headed, and I'm trying to head it off, and so are you. But it's going to explode, and you can see that it's going to explode because the level of dishonesty, you take the Nancy Pelosi's, you take the Adam Schiffs, the Gerald Nadlers, the Elliot Engels, the Maxine Waters, the Chuck Schumers, the rest of them. They just drip venom and they drip dishonesty. And it's so obvious to the American people that they're just liars and they're playing the American people for fools. And that's Congress. And then, of course, you have the deep state in the executive branch, which is doing everything it can to take the president down. And he is, of course, the head of the executive branch. So it's like Caesar and Brutus in the Roman Senate. You did a really good meme on the show that I did with you a few weeks back depicting that. Then you have the federal judiciary, which are the yes men, just like King George III had. They just rubber stamp what the swamp wants, what the establishment wants, whether you're right, left, center, wherever. They're people that got their jobs by sucking up to those who got them their jobs, and they have no courage, by and large. They throw cases out of court because they consider them not to be plausible. You don't have any recourse in the courts to any great degree. Occasionally we get a good judge, maybe 1 in 10. I've always said that. And now it's getting even more difficult than that. And then you've got the fake news media, which tells the people falsities and mistruths all the time. And then you've got the one cable network that has a reach on the right, Fox News, which plays both sides, run by Lachlan Murdoch, a leftist, an ultra-leftist. And he wants to, because of his own political ideology, promote people like Chris Wallace and Andrew Napolitano. I don't call him a judge really anymore. He's not really a judge. And these people are trying to trash the president. At the same time, they're raking in advertising dollars from the conservatives that watch their station in primetime with Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Laura Ingraham. You know, it's basically a you-know-what show up there. You can say a shift show, but you know what I mean. So
yeah, and you asked me.
Yeah, the country's being trashed, misused, dealt with unethically, and Rome is burning. It's burning.
Yeah, absolutely. And you asked me before we began what I thought the biggest issue of 2020 was. You actually just summed it up, Larry. It's the nexus of the intelligence community, the legal system, and mass media that basically have sort of coalesced. You talk about the deep state, the shadow government. They are all involved in these things, and each of them are critical in socially engineering the American public to believe that falsehoods are true so that fake legal processes like this sham impeachment can get across the line. And collectively, this is all the practice of lawfare, the weaponization of litigation. We've seen it used against President Trump. We've seen it used against you, against Dr. Corsi, against me. It's a real problem, and it's something that most people aren't even aware of.
Well, and the real problem is, and we'll talk about this more and more, is that when it happens, the recourse is to go to court. Okay, when you get defamed, when you're tortiously interfered with in your business relationships, when people try to assault you physically. I mean, look, just this week, and we'll talk about that too, a judge in Minnesota, a federal judge, didn't want to hear Laura Loomer's case against Rashida Tlaib, who clearly assaulted her when she just asked questions at a campaign event with Ilham Omar. It's on video.
On video.
Now, the judge didn't have the courage to allow the case to stay in his courtroom, so he says, okay, I'm dismissing it. Bring it in state court. He validated that we had valid claims. The law is clear here. But go to somebody else's court and bring it. You have a claim, but not in my court. So this is the problem. If you don't have judges that are going to enforce the rule of law, but forget about Congress, forget about the executive branch. We've got another hack as the attorney general, and we've got this clown up there in Connecticut called Durham. God knows what he's doing. And reminds me of the movie Wedding Crashers, when the comedian, what's his name?
Vince Vaughn.
No, the other one. Farrell. Will Farrell says to his mom, where's the meatloaf? Mom, what are you doing? Bring me the meatloaf, okay? And he's about ready to go to a funeral to pick up women, okay? So, this would be comedic if it wasn't so tragic, because there's nobody there to protect the American people other than themselves.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, of course, Freedom Watch and the work that you're doing with the citizens' grand juries. I think that the lawsuit that you brought against Mueller on behalf of Dr. Corsi was a counter-lawfare move because, again, Dr. Corsi has told us extensively how Mueller and his team of malicious prosecutors attempted to position the doctor, basically to put him into legal checkmate, to force him to do what they want. That is lawfare, the weaponization of that litigation where they know they can apply financial and legal pressure to a target. And they're the government. They have unlimited resources. Even a billionaire like Donald Trump has a difficult time resisting.
That's right. Now, we're going to talk about the citizens' grand juries in the second and third segment, and we'll talk about the problems with social media and communication. But you were there when we did the citizens' grand jury with Robert Mueller. We had him indicted, and you recorded it, and you observed it. You even gave a little testimony with regard to what had occurred with you. But this is the only recourse that we have, peaceful and legal right now, to bring about justice. We don't have a Justice Department. We don't have an FBI. The intelligence agencies are working against the American people. You've got Congress, which is a clown show. You've got the executive branch with the deep state trying to destroy the president. You don't have, any recourse here. And you got federal judges who are yes men, are scared of their shadow. So what do you do?
Yeah. Citizens
grand juries. We're going to be back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League, support our citizens' grand juries, get our free newsletters, sign up, join our Citizens Army, which is intended to be peaceful and legal. Also go to Crowdsource the Truth and see the great work that Jason's doing there because, he's on the cutting edge. And right now, you need somebody who's on the cutting edge who isn't afraid of their shadow. And that's what we have in a lot of the media. In our last show, we talked about Fox News, how they ran away from Joel Gilbert. He went all the way to New York on his own expense and canceled him out to talk about the Trayvon hoax just 2 hours before he was to go on, because the head of Fox News is a leftist and he doesn't like this. And the person that runs it, Suzanne Scott, she's got enough problems having covered up all the sexual harassment for years and enabled Roger Ailes to work his evil on the women that were there. But I'm going to be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman and Jason Goodman. Listen carefully, because we need to change what's going on in this country.
Dangerous.
Don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with Jason Goodman. Jason, you were there recording what went on during the citizens' grand juries. Tell us what you observed. Tell us what you thought about it, and why we need, in your opinion, because I know you do have this opinion, that we need to proceed with this exercise. Because after the new year, we're not only going to try Robert Mueller, we're going to seek to have him convicted. We're going to enforce the sentence peacefully and legally. Hopefully the president will back it up with what he tried to do with Dr. Jerome Corsi, get him to lie, to implicate the president. Otherwise, Corsi was going to be indicted, and they were going to try to put him away for life. But also the Pelosi's, the Schiffs, the Nadlers, the Schumers, the rest of them who've subverted the Constitution. They're now on the top of our list, and they're going to be, I will seek their indictment. We will try them. We will fry them. They need to be held accountable. They all walked off at the end of the year. They impeached the president. No trial yet. It's all games. It's fun and games. It's a joke. So, we're going to be taking action. But tell us, what you observed about the process.
Well, it was very educational for me, Larry. And I think that it's even if that is all that it were, that's extremely valuable, because what I've learned in the past 2 years is that I personally, and frankly the majority of people, are totally ignorant not only of the letter of the law, but the process. And by exposing yourself to the process, even if it's a simulated grand jury rather than a grand jury brought by the DOJ, a citizens grand jury, which has legal validity in certain states, as you've told me.
It has legal validity generally, whether or not the state's incorporated or not, by virtue of rulings of Justice Scalia in our Constitution. But go ahead.
Yeah, so from that standpoint, it's an incredibly powerful tool. And from the standpoint of educating the public as to how these procedures must work, and just taking the process back. You look at what Adam Schiff did in Congress, totally violated the rules, made up his own rules, did things that are unconstitutional, but yet he was able to, get that passed and get to the next step. So in a similar fashion, if the people are able to take back these rights, these procedures, and make something happen, if this causes your findings and Dr. Corsi's testimony and the various things that came out during that citizens grand jury to rise to the attention of the Department of Justice or the President of the United States, I'm hopeful that it'll have a change. We need the people to be educated in these processes. Well,
I agree with you but I do believe the people need to do it themselves, okay? I mean, the Justice Department knows everything, okay? Look, we just had an Inspector General report, no action. Comey recommended for prosecution twice by the Inspector General, no action. Andrew McCabe recommended for prosecution, no action. All they can do is criticize. They let the steam off. They want to avoid criticism. They themselves, because of the intelligence deep state, are subject to having, files of dirt on them. They're scared to react. It's the people that need to do it. And, again, yes, it is educational, and we'll see what happens. But on the other hand, we do have that God-given right. And we have the right, just like Wyatt Earp and others in our nation's history, had to take the law into their own hands. They abided by the law, but they meted it out themselves. And that's, in my view, what needs to be done. Now, I'm not advocating forcefully arresting anybody or provoking a violent revolt. That's what the left is good at these days. But we do have that right, and we got to figure out what to do with that right. So I hope people that listen to this show and listen to your show will weigh in with constructive ideas on how they think we can save the country. Because, I'm not the be-all and end-all. I'm not Mr. Know-it-all. Either are you or anybody else. The American people need to get up off the couch, put the popcorn and Diet Coke down, and start doing something, and to turn Fox News off and to do something constructive. So, Jason, that's my take on it. Now, I'd like to, when we come back, I want to talk about, the fake news media. I want to talk about how people are smeared and destroyed in this country, how they're reduced to ashes so they can't speak and so they can't tell the truth. And you certainly know about that, okay? And you're an expert, as we all are, on that. Yeah. And, I go through it all the time. And we're going to be back and talk about that. Until that time comes, go to freedomwatchusa.org. Look at what Jason has done with his great videos on Patreon and also on YouTube and elsewhere. Crowdsource the truth and learn the truth. And that's what we're trying to do going into our new year. And we have to be optimistic, whether you're Christian or Jew or otherwise. God is with us in the end. He will guide us to a just conclusion. I'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Jason Goodman, my good friend, patriot, truth teller extraordinaire. Jason, tell us, what in your view, because you've experienced it, the destructive nature of misinformation is today in our society. And, deal with the social media issues, deal with how it destroys people, makes them radioactive. I have several clients that are radioactive. Okay, obviously, the one that's most radioactive is George Zimmerman, but you've got Jerry Corsi, you've got Laura Loomer, you've got Sheriff Arpaio, you've got Judge Roy Moore. I can go on and on and on. And I represent these people because if I didn't represent them, no one would represent them, because a lawyer who then represents them winds up getting smeared, and all these evil forces come out to try to destroy them in many different ways. So I want you to tell about your experience and what you think's going on right now, because it's getting worse and worse and worse every day. And I'm tired of hearing people complain about it like Hannity does every night. We're doing something about it. Okay, so let her rip.
Yeah, well, you've hit it on the head, Larry. I mean, the point of the matter is your career has been built by defending people in the actual courts of law. And what we're seeing an incredible move towards is basically vilifying people in the court of public opinion through social media and the techniques of social engineering, where the people who are observing, the general public, is just constantly lied to and led to believe that falsehoods are true and that the truth is false. And basically all the people that you've just described, Laura and George Zimmerman and Judge Moore and Dr. Corsi, they each have the common factor that they were destroyed in the court of public opinion with falsehoods. And, of course, there's no due process in the court of public opinion. By the time you get to court, as you said, that reputation destruction permeates society to the extent that lawyers may not want to represent these people. Jurors maybe already have, a poisoned image of what this person is. It compromises their ability to get a fair trial. And by the way, we should add to that group President Donald Trump. This is exactly what Pelosi and the Democrats have done. And that's exactly why she didn't want to, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and she still isn't going to. Pelosi will not bring those articles of impeachment to the Senate because she knows they will be subjected to due process and obliterated immediately. She has achieved an impeachment in the court of public opinion, and that is all she wants. She wants to deny Donald Trump due process. She wants to violate his rights, and she just wants to destroy his campaign for 2020, and they're being effective in their attempt.
Well, absolutely. And just look at her face, on TV. It's unbelievable. She was wearing black like it was a funeral. She was trying not to smile. That's how happy she was. Of course, she's had so many facelifts. If she smiled, her face would probably crack. Joan Rivers used to joke about that. Unfortunately, the lady who was nice, I knew Joan Rivers, died, of an overdose of anesthesia. But unfortunately, we can't give anesthesia to, I don't want her to die or anything like that, but I'd just like to put her to sleep, for quite a while. Nancy Pelosi, maybe we can put her in a crypt, she can come out at night. I don't know, but like Dracula.
In my observations,
she looks like the female version of Dracula. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, Nancy Pelosi seems to be self-medicating most of the time.
Yeah, whatever the case may be. But she has more artificial parts than Superman. But in any event, go ahead.
Well, there's one other topic I wanted to bring up that goes along the lines of this court of public opinion. And this is something that was in the news quite a while ago. We've heard about Stephen Halper, who was the Cambridge professor that was some sort of consultant to the Trump campaign. He was involved in the initial contact with Papadopoulos, and it seems to me that this guy is an operational plant. He was working for the Reagan campaign back in the 80s. This is all documented in the news, the New York Times, et cetera, and they were executing a remarkably similar plan to spy on Jimmy Carter's campaign. Now, this Stephen Halper, this is public information. I'm looking at the court docket here from the Eastern District of Virginia, case number 194 PO 00199, which was filed on July 11th of 1994, a criminal charge for the possession of crack cocaine. Stephen Halper was arrested driving around in his car in Virginia with crack. This case was terminated in February of 1995, and you hear nothing about it. The guy is lauded as this, genius from the UK. I believe he's an operational plant put into the Trump campaign, specifically so the deep state can spy on the Trump campaign. They put these operational plants in there to make it appear that Trump has done something wrong, but it's their own doing.
Well, let's take this a little step further. Whether he is or he isn't, okay, the fact is that the NSA, the CIA, the NSA have everything on anybody, okay?
Right.
You don't even need operational plants, okay? They record everything. They can turn on your TV. They can get into your cell phone. I know they have with regard to me. I was, in the Justice Department safe room one day at the FBI. FBI is part of Justice Department. My phone turns on, and I'm there, with a whistleblower giving information to the government. And, this is the hypocrisy of the whole thing. The Hillary Clinton 33,000 missing email, they have them all. There was never a question that they could get them. They didn't even need to bring people in front of a grand jury. Mueller, they have everything, every single thing they have. And in fact, when Roger Stone was tried, and I was there, and I'm obviously not sympathetic of Roger Stone, he got what he deserved, in my opinion, and he should probably get more. But it's unbelievable because they hung him on his own words, his emails, his texts. They had everything. They had the calls that he was making to Trump. They tried to try Trump into what he did to influence the jury, that kind of thing. His lawyers were so hapless. They just sat there and watched, smiling. They were so happy that they were there in the big leagues, participating. I mean, it was a rout. So, as far as infiltrating campaigns or infiltrating anything else, they've got complete authority and the ability to spy on everybody, and they do. And what's interesting right now is that you're starting to see people in Capitol Hill. I talked about this in last week's show with regard to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. All of a sudden, Federal Judge Rosemary Collier is not one of the brightest ones over there. She doesn't have even respect among her fellow judges, okay? All of a sudden, the IG report comes out saying that, there were things that went on with the FISA court. It's called FISC, actually, FISC, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, that it's a secret court that deceived it under oath in getting warrants, search warrants and wiretap warrants, which gave rise to the Russian witch hunt investigation. So what does she do? Her court was defrauded. She's been watching what's going on. She took no action. Neither did any other judges on the FISC court for all this time. And what's the answer to that? Well, okay, I think you guys need to go back and retool your way of doing things, your policies. That's like O.J. Simpson saying, I won't kill again, right? So this is what we're dealing with here. Look at the corruption in the judiciary and the federal judiciary. They're a bunch of hacks. They're a bunch of hacks by and large. There's some good ones, yeah. I've met 5 in my entire career in 42 years that have guts. Maybe 3 on the federal bench. I'd say 2 on the state bench. And state benches are much better than federal benches because they're answerable to the people in elections generally. Yeah. The state judges in Florida are pretty good. But the federal judges, they're intellectually or actually corrupt by and large. And, so why didn't they start a criminal contempt proceeding? I mean, why is it, okay, we hope you do better next time when these outrages are occurring and they're the ones that are in charge? But what I'm trying to get at, Jason, all my friends are with J's. I think I'm going to change my name to a J. Maybe call me James. But in any event, it's easier. I just call everybody J. So at Duke, we called everybody Zeke. We didn't have to remember their name. So what is it, what's going on in this world when everything you do is subject to surveillance? It's not just the government. The social media companies have the same tools of surveillance that the government has. Who do you think developed those surveillance tools for the government? It was companies like Google. It was companies like Apple, and others, Facebook. They know everything about us, and you don't even need to have plants and campaigns. And that's the big sham. And now you have Congressman, even Devin Nunes, one of your favorites, I know, not mine either, who's saying, let's get rid of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. And, because it's corrupt, because they're sitting over a corrupt deep state that has stuff on everybody in this country and is used at the appropriate time and place to blackmail them. And that's likely what happened with Chief Justice Roberts when he flipped on Obamacare. It's why he's become a leftist judge. Kavanaugh has gone left. They're scared of their shadow. It's why Barr, in my opinion, takes no action. They probably have more stuff on him than you can believe. Lindsey Graham, there's nothing wrong in being gay, okay? But he's scared it's going to come out. He's hid it all these years. And, everybody's got something, right? But those people who, really want to do something don't worry about that. They just plot ahead and they take the cuts. Justice Clarence Thomas, my favorite justice, okay, said once, I was at an event in Washington, if you're going to stand for anything in Washington, D.C., you have to be prepared to get attacked. You have to be prepared to get cut. He certainly was cut with a phony sexual harassment claim by Anita Hill. Anyway, Jason, I know I'm rambling here, but the new year, causes us to take stock as to what's been going on, because we need to change it in the new year, in 2020, or we're not going to have a country anymore.
Yeah, and Larry, you've just reminded me of another thing in your intro that you were involved in and have been involved in for a long, long time that's still pertinent, the NSA illegal surveillance. I mean, you were out there on the bleeding edge. Cases that you've brought have resulted in laws changing. I mean, we are fully in a post-constitutional America. And to me, the most disturbing aspect of it is that most people aren't even aware and don't care.
Well, they don't care, but they're starting to care because it's starting to affect their lives. And you can see it every single day, how it affects your life. I mean, you take certain states in this country where, California or New York or others where individual liberties and freedoms are going down the drain. It's unbelievable. You can't even consult with a psychologist anymore. In California, for instance, if you're not sure whether you're gay or straight and want to figure it out, if a psychologist consults with you, he can be charged with a crime. Believe it or not, it's unreal. And this is something that is going on in this country. This total government control, and that control is backed up with the mass surveillance when they have stuff on powerful people that can do something about something. Why does the Justice Department do nothing? Why is Cliven Bundy continued to be persecuted at the Ninth Circuit when a leftist Obama-appointed judge threw out his indictment? Why is the Trump Justice Department doing that? What do you think, Jason?
I have no answer to that, Larry. I mean, that is a troubling thing. I do agree with you that William Barr is I've got my misgivings about him. He was very, very involved in Iran-Contra. When we look at people like this Stephen Halper, who was floating around the Reagan White House, this guy was working for George H.W. Bush, not Ronald Reagan. So we got a lot of the same players in place who previously covered up one of the biggest crimes and scandals in our history, and now there are remarkable similarities.
Well, the worst part is, Stephen Halpers or no Stephen Halpers, the people that can do something about anything, are immobile. They're frozen. They're scared of their shadow. And that is a very dangerous situation. So all the checks that our founding fathers put in place, in 1776, they started it, codified in the Constitution in 1789. I mean, we have no Constitution in practice. It's gone. I'll be right back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Hang on, Jason, because we're going to wrap it up. And we're going to say something positive for people for the new year so they can feel good that we're going to change things.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with Jason Goodman of Crowdsource the Truth. Jason, tell people how they can tune into what you do before we get to the finale here, the denouement, French.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry. The easiest way for people to find all of our social media platforms is to go to crowdsourcethetruth.com, and that'll lead them to all the links and all the videos.
Now, let's talk something positively, because we do hold our fate in our own hands, whether you're Christian, Jew, or whatever. We do have God, and God got us through a lot of bad stuff in the past. I mean, laced throughout the Declaration of Independence is basically an appeal to God to create a new nation, just, with freedom and liberty for all. Now, with that in mind, that takes a lot of load off your back, Okay, I mean, it takes it off my back. That's why I don't care what people say or what they think. I answer only to one entity. That's God. And now let's start from that premise. What do you think we can do, Jason, to turn it around? And I want our listeners to contact me at leklayman@gmail.com or leklayman@yahoo.com or through our website or whatever. If you have a constructive idea that's peaceful and legal, how we can save this country, give it some thought. You know, this is the time of reflection. This is the new year. And we have to do something right now or we're not going to get into 2021. God knows, you know, we're taking our eye off the ball with regard to this impeachment and, you know, all this division in our country and everything else. Last time we did that, and I was not a proponent of Bill Clinton, I helped get him impeached with Congressman Bob Barr and others. But the reality is that it went on so long that Osama bin Laden during that time period had other ideas. Remember 9/11. And I'm afraid that this country, while it sleeps, while it goes through these fun and games, evil fun and games, that there's going to be some disaster, maybe an accidental nuclear explosion, a dirty bomb, or what. You know, these terrorists, they're not done yet. And there are people inside our Congress that actually think what they're doing is a great thing. So
that's what I thought you were talking about, terrorists in Congress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Rashida Tlaib or Omar are terrorists. What I'm saying is they're sympathetic to these entities, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, you know, those kinds of things, and they have ties to people who are terrorists. So, you know, what do we do to reverse the course here? What can the people do to rise up? So I want your idea, and then I want our listeners to weigh in and give us their ideas.
Yeah. Well, the very first thing for people to do, Larry, is to get engaged and to, you know, really be discerning and not to just decide that they really, really like Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow or Chris Cuomo or whatever personality appeals to them, but to really dig in and try to find facts and try to learn facts. I see so many people having arguments where I can tell one side is parroting what they heard from Sean Hannity, and the other side is parroting what they've heard from whoever they like on CNN or MSNBC. And that is not the way to get to the answer. That is the way to engage in the distraction that's being put before us to keep us from the answer. And when people do things like pay attention to the proceedings of the Citizens Grand Jury or tune in to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman or Crowdsource the Truth, the purpose behind what you and I are doing, Larry, is to educate people and allow them to come to their own decisions. We're not going on the air and repeating the same pie in the sky, you know, wish for something every night. We're actually trying to put these things into action and really, you know, take it into our own hands, like you said, peacefully, legally, intellectually.
Yeah, and it's important. What's going on in our universities and our schools is very important today. We need to change that. We all need to band together. You know, conservative groups in the past, they've been very egocentric for themselves. They don't like to band together. I'm happy to work with anyone, even Judicial Watch if they got rid of Fitton. Okay, so, you know, these are the things that need to be done here. And I hope that in the new year that we can all band together, work with a common cause to the extent possible. And you're helping educate the American people, and I thank you for that, Jason. And in the future, you can call me Dr. J, by the way, because I'm from Philadelphia, so we'll all be J. And it's going to be a great new year, I think, because I do believe that we have a destiny and that we will save this country. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League. You are the superheroes, and listen to Jason's show. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. And God save America in the new year.